Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dude Rocket YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. This is a clip from a video I did a while ago. It was a tandem axle review. I was using my Wowgo 3 for that video. And my Wowgo 3 I've had for nearly 5 years. One of my favorite boards of all time. Massive fan of the Wowgo 3. However, I got on it recently after riding my own board a bunch. And I was like, I'm not so sure I'm a fan of this higher ride height and this ultra flexible deck, you know? I'm not sure I like it anymore. So I decided, for the first time ever, to do a deck swap all by myself. I didn't do any research. I didn't watch any videos on it. I just sat down with my tools and gave it a go. So you'll see here, I unscrewed the enclosures, the battery and the ESC. We then took out the trucks. I had to peel the grip tape up to get to them because the grip tape was applied after the trucks were installed, which I wish they'd done it the other way around, because then you could replace the trucks without having to peel up the grip tape. But there we go. At the end of the day, it didn't matter too much anyway because of things you will see. We peeled off those adhesive patches, and then we had to remove the XT60 male to female cable from actually within the deck where it's stored. So I tried very hard to get it out. There's a whole bunch of gel in there and sealant and stuff that they've put in there, which kind of gets in the way. And it's there for the right reasons, obviously, but the board, it means you can't get the cable out so easily. It took me quite a long time to do it. And we had to take all the grip tape off. Anyway, now what we're doing is we are just measuring out the locations for the enclosures on this new deck. We put the adhesive layers down and just did little dots through them with the pen to mark out where we needed to drill, and then we went ahead and drilled, as you can see. Interesting story with this deck. It was actually gifted to me by a neighbor who saw me and my buddy Connor from some of my previous videos just riding around having fun. And she said, hey, my daughter used to skate, but she doesn't use these boards anymore, and she gave us this longboard and a standard skateboard. It's really cool of her, completely free. What we're doing now is we've just drilled some holes in the enclosures because I'm not going to do a through deck cable. That's just too complicated. So instead, we're going to run the cable just underneath the deck along the middle. I was thinking about putting the enclosures right next to each other and then not using an XT60 cable like that and just plugging them directly into each other. But in the end, I thought, you know what, let's actually attach them, one at the front, one at the back, as it was done originally. So we wrapped up the cable completely in duct tape to protect it. We measured it all out to make sure the length was right. And now what we're doing is simply widening those holes on the deck, because I made holes earlier and unfortunately they weren't big enough for the bolts to get in. So now what we've done is we've attached all the bolts, as you can see, putting them in. And what we found was, annoyingly, the battery enclosure just would not stay where it had been placed. So this was perhaps because I maybe made the holes a bit too big unintentionally. I got my Loctite out to try and see if that would help. I got some super glue out, as you can see, to see if that would help, but it just wouldn't. I could not get that enclosure to stay there. So in the end, I grabbed some screws, I made some more holes with my drill, and we actually screwed the enclosure with real, like, you know, proper screws to the deck. That seemed to work and made it quite stable. I had to put some cardboard down to stop any of the Loctite and super glue going on the floor. And then we had to do the same thing with the ESC enclosure. So you can see, trying to put the bolts in and it just not working. So I ended up adding some screws, trying to screw it down. And that worked a little bit, but it still wasn't great. So yeah, getting a seal on here really wasn't that easy. Kind of gave up in the end, and we'll see that shortly. But yeah, we put more screws through the deck. I was just cannibalizing screws from like doors in my house and other appliances I had around. Any screws that weren't 100% required, I was just stealing them because I didn't have any screws. So that was an interesting thing. Anyway, we are now reattaching those wheels to the deck. So this is the Wowgo 3 motor, hub motor wheels attaching to the deck. Just measuring out the tandem axle kit and removing a washer, because we had one wheel that had too many washers on it, and attaching that to the deck. Lovely Paris truck from the Wowgo 3 as well. Truly brilliant. And then look, doing a little test, hopping on it, a little bit of flex, but not too much. Feels great. There we go. There's the finished product. And here is what we ended up with. So a couple changes. First things first, you will notice that we now have two different wheel sizes on the board. On the front, there's a 70mm and a 90mm. You will have explained to you soon why we have done that. If we move up the deck here, you can see what it looks like. And you can also see that we attached that battery cable with two holes in the deck and a zip tie through the middle. There we go, the Northcore skateboard logo, and there's the bolts underneath. So we actually put the bolts down through the deck this time and then put nuts on the other side, and that was perfect. And now none of those enclosures are going to move. Here is a look at the board outside. This is the following day, so we've got it all up and running. We've got those two little wheels on the back of the tandem axle kit, the 90mm on the front. I think it looks really cool. I love the shape of the board. If we put it the other way around, you can see what it looks like from the underside. I like how the battery cable actually ties in with the black artwork on the bottom. I think it looks pretty cool. Generally, I think the board looks really cool, and I like the fact that you can see the wood, whereas on the Wowgo, obviously you couldn't. Let's get to riding it. Here we go. Riding the board up and down the street, and immediately I noticed just how carvy it was. So it was so carvy. It was wonderful, like so nimble, so agile. You could turn it in no space at all. Far, far more maneuverable, I would say, than the original deck was. I don't know how that works. Maybe I just had more confidence on this deck. But yeah, you could just carve around. Look at us go. Something about the way this deck feels is just so nice. And look at how snappy it can be. I mean, it just moves like it's nothing. The turning circle is enough to turn it around in any road you're in without hitting the curbs. I absolutely love it. Coming back now, gonna put some real snap on the carve and just look at it. Look how cool it is, how quickly it turns. This is just a lovely little cruiser for having some fun on. I love this modification. Tentatively heading downhill on here, but look at the carve again on the way down. Just so controlled, so snappy, it's just wonderful. It's so relaxing and so much fun. Very, very happy with this modification, to be honest. It's so agile, and I just can't wait to ride it more.
And with that, back to the studio. Thanks. Please stop.
So something a little bit unexpected happened. Essentially, once I was done with the build, you would have seen I put 90s on both of the tandem axles. 90 here, 90 here. What happened was, about 1 AM, I just finished the build that you've watched, and I'm so impatient, I was like, let's go out, let's have a ride, because I bet it's going to be fun. And it was fun, it was great fun. But unfortunately, because we had 90s here, when I turned, and I did try and test for this, I just clearly didn't test very well. When I actually turned, we dug in. So the 90 here dug in to the deck. The board just stopped and I just face planted the concrete. I wasn't too hurt. I got a small cut on my leg and a small chunk out of my hand, nothing major. This hand is fine because I landed remote first. So the Wowgo remote basically ate the impact for me, which was great because this hand is completely unscathed. However, the unfortunate side effect of that is my Wowgo remote is now completely dead. Well, I say completely dead, it still works, but the throttle doesn't work. it's random. So I opened it up and basically there's a little piece of plastic on the inside of the throttle wheel that has sheared off completely. I tried to repair it, I wasn't able to, even with super glue, and it's just so tight, the tolerance. So what it means is when you scroll the wheel up, it's really intermittent with whether it hits the throttle or not. It means sometimes even if you don't touch the wheel, the board will just fly off all by itself. So it's not really safe to ride at the moment, which is so sad because I spent so long building it. But I've got a new remote coming from Wowgo. So when that gets here, I'll actually go out and use it properly. The short amount of time I did actually get to ride it, I was just in love with it. It felt amazing. Proper carvy, like seriously carvy, and this much more stable deck. I didn't think I would like it at first, but after riding the own board, I think I actually prefer it. Ultra flexible is cool, but I think a mix where this has some flex, but not a lot. I think that might be my preferred deck at this point. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. It was my first ever sort of deck swap that I've done. There were a few hurdles, obviously getting these compartments to stick. That was one of the big hurdles because I couldn't do it until I had the idea of actually putting the bolts in the other way around and then putting the nuts on the bottom. Other than that, I am incredibly proud of this project. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If so, please drop a like, leave a comment. It would mean the world if you would do those things because this channel's small, I'm trying to grow it. The more engagement we get, the more chance there is of this video being shown to someone else, which means I can do more. So yeah, if you like it, let me know, drop a like. Even if you've got nothing to say, leave a comment, it would mean the world. I have affiliate links. If you want to make a purchase, use those, it would support the channel as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you around.